How's it going, everybody? Justin here with the Pit Lane. Got a little bit of work for Project 335, my E36 BMW track car. I've got my limited slip differential out here on the table. As you can see, I have the differential itself already taken out of the case over there. That's pretty simple. These are the outside covers. They got these tabs on the tops. Really nothing to taking this apart. You just basically undo the bolts that are on there. The tabs, when you put it back together, do face upward. You want to make sure you remember the orientation and what side they came off of, that kind of thing. We're going to start pulling this guy apart. I've got new bolts for the top plate on the other side here, and really what I'm replacing is the clutch discs inside the differential itself. That will hopefully let the clutch engage a little bit better and lock up a little bit more than the old worn out clutches that are inside the thing here. So gonna get it pulled apart here, put the camera down on the table, and we'll get into it. Alright, so we're getting the bolts taken off of the top cover here. First not awesome part about this job is getting these bolts out. Some of them were in really tight. Some of them came out okay. I did have to use my impact wrench to get them out. You should have extras of these. You don't want to reuse these. They're really soft and crappy bolts, so it's alright if you tear them up, and you will tear them up trying to remove them. I actually had to use a few different Torx bits. I actually ruined a couple of them trying to get these things out, because some of them just stripped out so easy on the inside, so I had to mash a Torx bit in there, you know, and get it tight enough. I used some penetrating oil as well to try and loosen those things up, but they were a pain in the butt to get out. So just take your time, be careful. This was actually a T50 Torx bolt. It will fit in there. This stuff is so soft it just mashes right down if you strip it out with the regular Allen head, but those are a bit tricky. We go ahead and take the rest of those off, and we'll get the diff coming apart here. Alright, so we got this thing all taken out. The top part you can kind of pry up with a couple little pry bars like this. Doesn't take a whole lot of strength, but that kind of pop right up. We got a lot of clean space over here where we're going to lay out all the parts one by one in proper order so we know how they go back in. I am following a how-to guide on beamerdiffs.com. I believe they've got a pretty well written how-to on how to do this and how all the parts go in order. So we'll start taking this thing apart here and laying out all the pieces. There's probably going to be a washer stuck inside this guy. This is basically the cap piece we just took off. It's just kind of a flat washer stuck in there. We'll get that pulled out. And then there's a couple other ones. 2 other ones that come out. A flat washer, and then a friction style disc with pits on one end. That guy faces down into the diff, and it's notched on one side so that it will fit. When it's together, it'll fit in this notch like so, right up in there. So I'm going to lay these out in the way that they came out, in the order that they came out, in the direction that they came out. Okay, moving on, we got one of the conical discs or washers. This is concave. You can kind of see the angle there. This is the concave face. This is the convex face on the top. The convex face faces up, the concave faces down. So basically pulling this right out and setting it over on the table here exactly as it came out. So when I put these back in, I'll be taking parts and just going bam, one after the other, without having to do anything with them. And our first clutch disc is coming out here. Hopefully. Helps to have some of these little dental picks to slide these things out of here. There's our first clutch disc. This is what we're replacing. Now after taking out that last clutch plate, or the first clutch plate, there's a big kind of a thick section inside here where the diff gears are contained, and it helps to reach underneath here in the holes, and you can push it up from the inside, or the outside rather, and then grab a hold of it, and that kind of just slides up and away. And as you can see, this is the inside of it, nice and greasy. We got a dog gear coming out. Again, we're keeping everything in order in the line back here. Might need a little more room. And the diff gears themselves, I'll kind of tip the camera in here. You can see how those are laid out inside there. So we know how to put it back together. These guys will just lift right out, like so. You'll notice there's a notch on one side. That's the side that faces down. And then the other one has a notch in it, where the notch is facing upwards, so those guys will seat together on those notches. And we got the gear on the other side. There we go. Be careful when taking out this last carrier. As you can see, the clutch disc and the other dog ear plate is stuck to it just from the grease, so make sure when you take it out, you take it out in order. And one more conical washer down there, and then the other washers. Now this one coming out, this is the one on the deep end of the diff. The concave side is facing upward. So when you put it back in, you want to put it concave up, opposite of the other side. So we'll put that back in order on over there. Actually, on this side of the diff, there's an extra really thick washer or spacer, whatever it is, but just a regular washer-like spacer. So we'll make sure that gets back in the correct order. Take a quick look here on the inside. You can see that little washer down there with the notch on the top of it. You can see the way it fits in there, and it's got the perforations on one side. So we'll make sure we get that put back in the right direction. It looks like to finish it out, it's got two more washers on that side, a thin one and a thick one. So make sure those go back in the right order. That actually looks like just the same as the other side. So got everything out of there. What we're going to do is clean all this stuff up, get all the grease and grime off of everything. Get my new clutch discs out. You can actually see I'm soaking the clutch discs back here in some of my differential fluid. So we'll get everything cleaned up and start putting it back together. Alright, so all our differential parts are cleaned off, ready to go here. As you can see, I've still got them in order as such all the way down the line. And my new clutch discs up there, we'll put those in when we get to the clutch disc section. Inside of this guy is all nice and cleaned out, ready to go. And basically what I'm going to do is just put things back together in the reversed order and add a little bit of differential fluid to the piece as I go along, just so there's a little bit of lubrication on them going in. So we got the diff here, diff case, and a little bit of fuzz in there from the rag. But again, you want to make sure when you grab these parts off the bench, you're taking them in the exact position that they came out in. And actually the second little washer that's in the pile over here, this one is another, actually it's a conical washer. I didn't realize that when I took it out. But it's the second one to go in. The concave section faces up, and the smaller convex side faces down. So again, just make sure you take it out, and when you take it out, you put it down on the table exactly as it came out, and it goes right back in the same position. So start putting it back together here and see how it looks. These last few washers that go into the differential top, a little bit tricky in the way they go in. It's basically these three washers. The first one is the one that has the perforations or whatever on one side, and you want to make sure you orient that tab in the correct direction, so when you put the top cap on, the notch is in the right spot. So it does take a little bit of finagling to get it in there, but you got that washer, the conical washer with the concave face facing down, and then the last final flat washer that goes on top of it. You kind of just got to lay these guys on the top here, line them up, and then drop your top section back on. Alright, there we go. Once the carrier cover is on and in place, you can kind of use a light and look down in the hole there and make sure your tab from that oil disc or the perforated disc is lined up in the hole. After that, we're going to grab our nuts, put a little bit of blue Loctite on each one and start hand tightening them down in the star pattern, and then they will be torqued ultimately to 25 foot-pounds, I believe. Just double checking here. Yeah, 25 foot-pounds is what they'll be torqued to, and then once that's done, it's pretty much complete. We're still ratcheting down the bolts here on top of the carrier. It's kind of a long process. You only get a couple of turns on each bolt before you got to go to the other side. So just be patient. It takes a little bit of time. You don't want to strip out these heads. So a couple turns, stop, go to the opposite side. A couple turns, you'll feel it stop. Just kind of continue around the carrier, repeating the pattern until it's all the way bottomed out. Once it's bottomed out, we'll torque it down to 25 foot-pounds with the torque wrench. The top carrier is now bottomed out after some wrenching. Like I said, in that star pattern, it does take a little bit. Your wrist will get a little sore. But anyways, it will happen. Screws will bottom out. We'll grab our torque wrench, set it to 25 foot-pounds of torque. And again, we're going to go and torque these down in the star pattern, just like we did with the regular wrench. The diff is now back together, thank goodness. We got all these bolts put back on the top and torqued down properly. It is kind of a pain. You really want to make sure that the Allen head, the 6mm Allen head, fits deep all the way in those bolts when you're cranking it down. You don't want them to strip out those things before you get them torqued down. But take your time, be careful. Should go well. We're going to get it thrown back into the differential housing now. I've got my covers here. I did have actually new seals pressed into the covers. You want to make sure your bearing races are nice and clean, and there is an O-ring on here as well. I'm just going to take a finger of transmission fluid and wipe it around there before putting it in. We'll slide this guy back in, making sure not to damage the speed sensor prongs here. It will sort of gently sit in there while you get the covers in place. And the tabs on these guys face upwards, so make sure those are properly aligned. Once we finagle that cover into place, we're going to start putting the bolts back in here. Make sure the holes are lined up with the washer. No Loctite on these guys. These will get torqued down to roughly 15 foot-pounds, so not too terribly tight. Again, I recommend referencing the how-to document on beamerdiffs.com. Very helpful. We won't actually torque these down to spec until we get the diff aligned properly and the gear mesh right with the pinion gear on the back side there, and then the other cover on. Once it's all put back together, we'll torque them down. Right now we'll just do them by hand. When putting the other left side cover on here, you kind of gotta hold the diff up on the inside so that the gear, ring gear, is touching the pinion in the back correctly, and then kind of finagle the left cover in. There we go. that's in place, and then at that point you should have a good mesh between your pinion gear and the ring gear. Again, in this how-to, I didn't, or walkthrough, I guess, I didn't touch the pinion gear on the other side, or the axle input shaft over here. So that none of that stuff was touched. If you do, there's a lot more steps you got to take to get the gear mesh correct and everything on the front end of the differential. So all I did was take off the side covers and pull the diff out. That's it, and then we worked on the differential itself. So that's about it. I'm going to throw these bolts on this left side cover here, torque them down to the 15 foot-pounds, and we are done. Fresh clutch discs inside the differential, everything cleaned up and ready to go, and we'll be putting it in the car soon. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed, please like the video and subscribe. If you have any questions, leave them in the comments below. Thanks.